The Vietnam War was a quite recent war fought between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. A key point in the war was when America got into the fray. They were on the side of South Vietnam, anti-communists who were fighting against the communist North Vietnam, led by Ho Chi Minh. The North Vietnamese forces were known as the Viet Cong and fought using guerrilla hit-and-run tactics. Although the South was anti-communist, their leader was absurdly corrupt with power and wasn't very liked. Nevertheless, America supplied South Vietnam with arms and support. North Vietnam was winning the war under Ho Chi Minh. The guerrilla tactics were very effective and could wear out enemies and strike fear into the American soldiers. Although they had advanced air forces and the latest technology, the Americans were losing. This is because the American soldiers were actually amateurs. They were newly recruited soldiers who were thrust into Vietnam straight away. However, President Johnson, current American leader at the time, believed there was still strength in numbers.
The media was and still is a very powerful, influential force in America. The public opinion was easily changed by the media's perspective. The radio and newspapers were already very popular with the American public. Popularization of the device known as the television had changed the media a lot. Finally, people could actually see what was going on instead of visualizing it in their heads. As the media was so influential, President Johnson decided to enlist their help in recruiting more soldiers and encouraging the American public to donate and fund the war.
Enter Walter Cronkite. He was what we would call a celebrity in his time. He was a journalist for CBS News and he was widely popular with the American public. He was considered one of America's most trusted men. In the front lines, President Johnson allowed journalists to get right into the action. Cronkite was one of these lucky few. Naturally, with Cronkite's massive popularity, President Johnson wanted Walter on his side.
However, after Walter had gone onto the battlefield, he was horrified. He was convinced that the war was impossible to win, and that they were only wasting resources on it. He naturally shared it with his followers, and people began to question their government for one of the first times in American history. People began rallies and protests, and the support of the war was diminished. This was the opposite of effect that Johnson had intended, and this ended up in making President Johnson go down as one of America's most hated presidents.
Some historians believe that the media was the cause of America's loss in the Vietnam War. The media was considered to be the ones influencing the public to stop supporting the war after all. Aside from Walter Cronkite, the media swayed the public's opinion of the war in other ways. For example, one of the most infamous scenes of the war was a surprise news broadcast of soldiers burning down a village with a lighter. This shocked people. As they didn't have TV coverage prior to the war, people didn't know what to expect from the war and were knocked back by the actual brutality of it all. The broadcast was also unexpected and it was shown on all channels. People couldn't avoid seeing the American soldiers cruelly burning down the village. Their freedom fighters had become warmongers of oppression.
What about you? What do you think? Was it really the media's fault? Or was the war doomed from the start?